Most people assume that once they retire, managing their money becomes kind of like a part-time job. Checking the markets, rebalancing portfolios, worrying about whether they're drawing too much or too little or from the right place. And I do get it, because when you've spent decades accumulating, the idea of now spending down your finite pot can feel terrifying. But what if I told you that with the right setup, you can run your retirement finances largely on autopilot and really only need to sit down and review things properly maybe once a year? Well, that's what this video is all about, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to structure your investments, build a withdrawal strategy that's tax efficient, and set up what I call a cash flow ladder so that your money works for you in retirement and not the other way around. Welcome back. My name is Pete Matthew, and this is Meaningful Money. I'm a chartered financial planner, and if you're new here, this channel is all about making personal finance simple, practical, and actually useful. And if that sounds like your kind of thing, why not hit subscribe, because we put out new videos pretty often. The first thing I want to do is reframe how you think about your money in retirement, because it's a genuinely different job to what you've been used to before. During your working years, you are in accumulation mode. Money goes in, investments grow, you don't touch it. Pretty much that's it. But in retirement, you flip into decumulation mode. That's a horrible word that advisors like me like to use. Basically just means spending. So now you need your money to do two things simultaneously. You need it to fund your lifestyle and keep growing enough to last the rest of your life. And that tension between spending and growing is what often trips people up. And here's the mistake that I see most often, probably. People either keep too much money in cash because it feels safe, but then they watch inflation quietly destroy their purchasing power, or they keep everything invested and then panic every time the market drops because it feels like their lifestyle is suddenly at risk. And that's never been the case while they've been working. And the answer really is a structure that separates those two jobs. So you have money that's safe and accessible for near-term spending, and then money that's growing for the long term. And we're going to get into exactly how to build that in a moment. I call this structure the cash flow ladder. It's actually a pretty short ladder, just got 3 rungs in this case. Rung 1 is about stability. So this is money held in cash, money market funds, very short-term gilts maybe. And this is your safety net, but it also funds your lifestyle for the next couple of years. That money isn't there to grow, it's there to be protected and spent. Then there's Rung 2, which is the sort of steady rung. A blend of equities and bonds usually, but in a proportion that doesn't lead to stupid high levels of volatility. Why? Because you're going to be spending this money between, say, 3 and 6 or 7 years from now. And then finally there's Rung 3, and this is the growth rung of the ladder. So a much higher proportion of global equities, maybe even 100% in equities, maybe some other higher risk assets. And this is your long-term growth engine. You're not touching this money for 6 or 7 years or maybe longer. And this structure, this ladder structure, is the foundation of everything else. If you get this right, honestly, the rest becomes much simpler. A bit more detail on the ladder in a little bit. So let's talk about withdrawal strategy and tax efficiency. If you've got your 3-rung ladder in mind, we need to talk about how you actually draw from it. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, because they assume that the goal is to pay as little tax as possible. But that's not quite right. It's a bit too simplistic, because the real goal really is to pay the right tax at the right time. So here's what I mean. Let's say you've got a big pension pot and you don't touch it early in retirement. It's going to keep growing. And when you do eventually draw from it, you actually might find yourself in the 40% income tax band rather than the 20% band. So it might actually make sense to draw some pension income earlier and pay a lower rate of tax on it, even if you've got tax-free sources that you could use. Because you'll then use up your lower rate bands now rather than face higher rate income tax later. Perhaps paying 20% tax today might be better than paying 40% tax in 10 years' time. And here's something that's becoming even more important. From April 2027, pensions are going to be brought into the calculation for inheritance tax purposes. And that changes the calculation significantly. For the last 10 years, a pension fund has often been the last thing that you wanted to draw from and spend down, because you would leave it to pass on inheritance tax-free. Now, after April 27, that logic largely disappears. And if you die with an unspent pension pot, your beneficiaries could face both inheritance tax and income tax on the same money. So this really matters, and it needs to be part of how you think about sequencing your withdrawals. Now, the general framework does still hold. ISAs are flexible and tax-free. Makes them great for bridging gaps or supplementing other income without affecting your tax position. GIAs can be handy for this as well. Even though they're not tax protected, you might be able to use your capital gains tax allowance to draw money with no tax implications. Pensions give you options. You've got UFPlus, that's uncrystallized fund pension lump sums, or flexi access drawdown, and they each have their uses depending on your other wider income situation. And then there's the state pension and any defined benefit pension income. That forms your guaranteed income floor, the income that you can always count on regardless of what markets are doing. But the order in which you draw isn't fixed. There's no right way of doing it. Really, it should be reviewed annually, we'll come to that shortly, and it should be unique to you. I do think there's real merit in discussing all this with a financial planner who can model different scenarios for your specific situation. I would say that. I am a financial planner. Okay, let's make this a little bit more concrete and get into the cash flow ladder in a bit more detail. Remember, it has 3 rungs, and I want to walk you through each one. So again, rung 1 is short-term cash. This is your 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or very near to cash. It's what you live on day to day. You use it to top up your other income to meet your spending needs. And crucially, having that money in cash means you're never forced to sell investments at the wrong time. Now, really importantly, this cash doesn't have to sit outside your tax wrappers, doesn't have to sit in your bank account. You could hold it inside an ISA, in a cash ISA maybe, or a money market fund, or inside your pension even, to draw from as needed. The key is that it's accessible and stable, not that it's got to sit in a current account. Just make sure you keep it simple and keep it liquid, really important. Rung 2 is our sort of medium-term steady growth rung of the ladder. This is what keeps rung 1 topped up. It's a blend of equities and bonds, but usually broadly in line with your general risk profile. So you won't have a crazy high proportion of equities because we don't want volatility to be too high. And every year, ideally, at your annual review, you will look at replenishing rung 1 from any profits made in rung 2, assuming that there are any. And if not, you can always come back to it in 6 months or next year. And you could even use income-producing assets in rung 2 to top up rung 1 as you go along. Basically, you're moving money down the ladder in a controlled and planned way. And then we've got rung 3. This is our longer-term growth rung of the ladder. So this is a much higher proportion of equities, may even be all in equities. Global equities, of course, not just the UK. Your higher risk assets, your inflation beaters, they sit on this rung of the ladder. And you're not going to touch this money for quite a few years. And so it's growing in the background while rungs 1 and 2 do the heavy lifting when it comes to spending. And the beauty of this system, hear this, the beauty of the system is that it decouples your immediate spending from whatever the markets are doing. So when markets fall, and they will, they always do, you're not sort of scrambling around or thinking about dialing back your withdrawals because you've already funded for the next year or two at least. So you can let rung 3 recover in its own time. So let me know, does the cash flow ladder feel manageable to you, or does it still feel complicated? Drop a comment below. I do read them all, and it helps me know what to cover next. Right, let's get into the annual review, right? 6 questions, maybe a couple hours, right? This is the bit that makes the whole system work. Once a year, same time every year, ideally, maybe a quiet January weekend or just after your birthday. Sit down for 2 or 3 hours and ask yourself 6 questions. Number 1, do I have enough cash in rung 1 of my ladder for the next 12 to 24 months? If not, replenish it from rung 2 if possible, or even some profits from rung 3. Question number 2, is my spending roughly what I expected it would be? Are there any big changes coming? Holiday, new car, big home repair? Plan for that spending now. Number 3, How have my investments performed? Don't obsess over this. It's really just a sanity check. Is the overall direction broadly right? Have they performed as expected? Question 4. Am I being tax efficient? Am I using my ISAs in the right proportion? Is my pension drawdown structured to avoid a bigger tax bill later? Am I drawing down enough now at 20% to avoid drawing more later at 40%? Am I getting a decent rate of interest on my Rung 1 cash? Question 5. Has anything changed? Think about health, family, relationships, goals. Life changes, just always does, and your plan should reflect any changes at your annual review. And then finally, question 6. What is my estate planning position? So from April 27, pensions will be included in the calculation for inheritance tax purposes. So ask yourself, is your will up to date? Are your pension beneficiary nominations correct? Do your beneficiaries understand the potential double tax hit, both inheritance tax and income tax, on any inherited pension funds? Honestly, this one is worth a proper conversation with an advisor at least every few years. And that's it. 6 questions, 1 afternoon. The rest of the year, you just get on with your life. Before we wrap up, if you want help putting all of this into practice, Meaningful Academy's retirement planning course walks you through building exactly this kind of system for your own situation. It's structured, practical, and self-paced. Head over to meaningfulacademy.com/retirement planning, check it out, and if you think it's for you, use the code YouTube at the checkout. And there's a 30-day guarantee, so if you check it out and realize it's not for you, just let us know and we'll give you your money back, no problem at all. And if you are working with a financial planner or you're thinking about getting one, ask them about cash flow modeling. Software tools like Voyant, that's the one I use every day, they make it much easier to visualize your ladder, your withdrawal sequence, and your long-term trajectory, and the impact of one option over another when it comes to withdrawals. Honestly, it's a game changer for retirement planning conversations, and Voyant is available to you for a year inside Meaningful Academy. So, let's bring it all together. Retirement on autopilot really comes down to 4 things. 1, the right mindset, shifting from saving to spending, but in a way which makes sense to you. Number 2, a smart withdrawal strategy, drawing things in the right order, at the right tax rate, at the right time, as far as we can know those things. Number 3, a cash flow ladder. So that's 3 rungs for your portfolio and how it's invested that protect your short-term lifestyle from noise in the markets. And then 4, an annual review, just 6 questions once a year, and then you close the laptop. Look, none of this is complicated, but it does require you to set things up intentionally. The people who struggle in retirement aren't usually the ones who run out of money. That doesn't happen very often. No, the ones who struggle are the ones who never built a system, and then they spent years worrying, and usually unnecessarily. And you don't have to be one of them. All right, here's a question for you. What's your biggest concern about your retirement finances right now? Is it having enough, or is it knowing how to manage it well? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what's on your mind. And if this video was helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It genuinely helps more people find the content. And if you know someone who's approaching retirement and feeling overwhelmed, maybe share the video with them. It might be exactly what they need. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.